Hello, folks.
Afternoon.
Sorry, I couldn't get into my own meeting. It's hilarious.
Look at your headphones.
I know. I have some awesome Bluetooth headphones, but they don't last for 4 hours, so I have to use these. But don't worry, I can teach you all sorts of shenanigans if you're interested in Zoom. Actually, well, maybe I will show you really quick a special magic hack that photographers can do. So yeah, let's see. So yes, if I couldn't have been bothered shaving this morning, this is how you would have seen me. That's actual. Look at that. I'm talking without moving my lips. That's some real-time live magic. Anyone who's into video, if you've done any video work or anything in the past, you can do all sorts of hilarious things. It's a live background. It's a video background. People putting palm trees and stuff in the background. Yeah. But in short, you can hack them yourself. Anyway, we have some of our beginner folks are going to come along today. If you didn't see it in the email, if you are doing one or other of my classes and you feel like you're in the wrong class, you can happily move between the two. Not an issue at all whatsoever. The only prerequisite for the intermediate class is that you have a vague clue what you're doing. We'll do lots of different practical stuff every week and just teach them as individual modules, basically. So, for example, if it's up to you guys what we study, but one of the most popular ones we do is food photography. So I would bring in a cake, which sadly you won't be able to eat this time, but bring in a cake and we set up a Marks and Spencer's ad and copy a Marks and Spencer's ad, and I teach us all how to do that kind of stuff. Elpitha had said to me before she's interested in that kind of stuff, so we could, for example, I know she does beer photography. I'm sure the fellas will be pleased to see some of that. So we could all bring a beer and do like a product shot of a beer or a Ribena or whatever you like, drink photography. It's a specific type of photography. But we'll have to plan. So that's one of the things we're going to do in this class is plan for the other classes, because normally I bring along paper planes, bouncy balls, chocolate cakes, all sorts of things to class. But because of the obvious constraints of being all online, I can't do that this time. So my beginners classes, they were scrambling around looking for a tin of beans or a ball to roll to learn about shutter. But it'll be up to you guys what we do. So it'll be up to you what you find. You won't need to buy anything at all. It's really just things you have about your house. To give an example, which seems ridiculous, to teach bird photography, I throw a lot of paper planes at the students while teaching them all the fundamentals of it. If I'm lucky to be teaching in a venue where there are birds, we just go out and do bird photography in real life, and same with street photography or whatever. In the Crescent, I take the class out around the Crescent, the Queen's area, for street photography. But we're going to have to make do and basically improvise and do things ourselves at home and stuff for this class. So let me get everybody in. Let me see. Have I got everybody in? I might well do. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, I think we've got everybody. If you can everybody hear me? If you can hear me, do a thumbs up. You don't have to
Is Morris coming across okay?
I can hear you, yes, but you're not on the video. You don't have to be on the video, don't worry. Una, you're muted at the minute. So if you're wanting to, that's okay. You want to be muted, yeah?
I did it on purpose because it causes too much interference, just people saying silly things.
Oh, right, okay. No, don't worry. We have they've actually done an update to Zoom in the last week to make it easier to deal with all of this. So they've now got like a waiting room and things like that. So you don't need to worry too much. But thank you for that. Yes, it can be a bit, Zoom was thrust into stardom because of the current situation, and they weren't ready for it at all. They brought out a whole load of software updates in the last week or so that have made it much better, thankfully. It's much easier for us teaching as well, because about a month ago it was a nightmare. But now it's a lot easier. So yes, I can see you all. You don't need to be seen, don't worry. But as long as you can hear me okay, that's the main thing. we're going to do, in short, practical teaching stuff. The first thing I'm going to do is something to do at the start of all my classes. So apologies for the beginners joining us, or anyone who's done my beginners class. We're going to draw a circle, and it's really just to teach the super important first lesson that I try to teach all my photographer students. So if you have a pen and paper, if you've done this before, tough, you have to play along. So I literally get students that meet me in Lisburn, and I taught them like 5 years ago, and they're like, oh, I still remember that pencil circle thing, because it's hands down the most important thing I could teach you. So if you've done it before, it's worth doing again. So simply enough, it's a way of breaking the ice and people getting to know each other's names too, but I want you to draw a circle and write your name in the middle of it. Guys run off to get a pen and paper, I bet. Right. So everyone else, if you show your circle to the camera. Here's my circle. Here we go.
What a pretty circle too.
Ooh, nice. Oh, and then your notes. Oh, good.
My left hand and my right hand.
Oh, are you ambidextrous as well? I didn't know.
Well, I think I was as a kid, but I was told not to. I was
Beat out of it?
with my knife and fork the wrong way, and
I was beat out of it as
I
well.
was slapped on the hand and told to stop doing it.
Wooden ruler. I got. Apparently that's illegal now. But anyway.
I know, apparently so, but yeah, I still remember it. So.
Well, long story short, I'm getting you to draw a circle. I have, as you can see, I'm a massively talented artist, and mine's perfect. That's because I cheated. Don't worry about it. It's part of the lesson. So, is anybody super proud of their awesome, fabulous circle?
Not really.
Not really. Okay. Has anybody got a really terrible circle that they're happy to share and they're not too embarrassed?
Not really terrible. Why don't you pick one?
All right, I'll pick one. I'm going to pick on one of you. Let's see. Right, Andrew. Say, Morris's is rubbish, but he's done this before. So. Okay, Andrew. So your circle, do you think you could improve it?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So this is the
I'm using
pencil.
square paper for flip sake.
Oh, squared paper, my goodness. Right. I drew this circle with this pencil. Do you think if I gave you this pencil, you would be able to draw a better circle?
No.
Why not?
That wouldn't be the thing that's making a bad circle. I would say it's my hand.
Well, what? So why? But sure. Look, I mean, look how fancy it is. It's like I think it was £4 or £5. It's a really fancy German-made propelling pencil. That bound to make your picture better.
Not convinced.
Not convinced. Okay. So it seems ridiculous. It's always hilarious when I teach this because it's always a laugh, but it's so bizarre. It's so persuasive and so pervasive in the photography industry. Camera companies spend billions of pounds a year trying to tell you that whatever one of these you buy will affect the circles you draw. Cameras are all effectively the same. They're a tool. They have almost no impact on your photography at all whatsoever. It's all about you. And no matter what pencil you have, when I teach this in person, I bring Barney, I bring pencils with Dora the Explorer, I bring pencils that are half chewed, I bring pencils that have been sharpened down to here. And within some limits, the pencil has almost no impact at all on your ability to draw circles. It's your ability to draw circles. And photography is exactly the same. And I teach it, don't worry, I won't do this every week, but I will constantly do this. This is my way of like calling bullshit on people whenever they start talking about not having the right gear and things like that. But in short, almost everything you do with your photography is all about you. Cameras for the last 10 years at least have all been good enough that you can do pretty much anything you like with them, with the right skills and experience. Sometimes you need other gear, and I will recommend gear for people that are doing some very specific niche types of photography, because there are some things you just can't do. But in short, most of the time, it's really all about you. So that being said, we're going to do a quick round robin and an intro. Oh, it's basically a quick round robin and an introduction to get an idea about people's creativity and their photography. Again, apologies to the beginners because they did this at the start of that class too. I'll start it off. It's just to give you a little bit about me and why I want to know these things. I want to know your creative experience, and I want to know what sort of career or job or effectively your kind of mindset that you've worked in. And that's because it helps me help you with my teaching style, because different people have different learning styles. Usually it quite well matches up with types of careers and things I've done. So my name's Matcha. I am a professional photographer and photography teacher. I was a statistician in the past. I was a hardcore maths boffin, about the most hardcore maths boffin you could get. My day job was grinding numbers for a living. I still do, like, love maths. I absolutely loved maths. I am super weird though, and one of the very small proportion of the population that is ambidextrous and equally left and right brained. I do not have a strong logical preference or a strong creative preference. I have both. I fixed my daughter's phone screen during the week because she broke it, which required brain surgery on a phone. And I fixed a tumble dryer which broke, and I'll happily go and paint and draw or do whatever. And they're all very different skill sets for different people. But for me, I'd say I'm equally bad at all of them, to be honest with you, that I don't have any preference. But my point is, I'm not left or right footed. To everyone, I'm very bad with both feet when I play football. I have a preference for my right hand, but not really. I can use my left hand. And why I mention it is because it definitely, I have had 2 or 3 ambidextrous students who feel the same way, but most folks will be very much like to be facts and figures and learning through sort of like traditional stuff, and others might be in the creative field where they like to learn by doing and making mistakes and things. So that's a little bit about me. My photography, I am a portrait photographer, but I've done a little bit of everything. I was a wedding photographer back in the day, but now I concentrate solely on people photography. So that's kind of my background. I'm going to pick through on my top of my screen. Ian is next. So Ian is going to tell us a little bit about himself. You don't need to go into that much detail, Ian. Just a hi, I'm Ian, and whatever. I'm very interested in what you've done creatively. It doesn't have to be photography. And just generally, you don't have to tell me about your job if you don't want to, but just generally what kind of mindset you have from your career, what sort of day job you had.
Day job at the minute is a primary school teacher, so I'm working from home. So this is kind of
your new normal.
Yeah, this is back to work again. They're all working away, hopefully at home, and then they'll send me their work later on, and I'll review it. Wasn't always a primary school teacher. I worked in the packaging industry for quite a while. Sales, marketing, that kind of stuff. So it's a completely different mindset. I've been doing teaching now including training for the best part of 20 years. So it's been very interesting. Always interested in photography. I probably didn't realise that I had a wee silly box camera you had to look down into to take pictures, and then progressed my teenage years, early 20s, into good old Zenit EM. Still have a lens or 2 from that. Always liked taking pictures, and then I just decided I think I'd like to get better at this. Joined a camera club, wasn't a great one. Joined another one, great for me in terms of I just didn't. They were kind of older and quieter. Joined another one, and I've learned a lot at it. It can stifle any creativity I have with the camera, because I think I've said to you before, you're inclined to shoot with judges in mind.
Yeah.
But you do get to see what kind of is a flavour of a photograph. But I have had both sort of shocks and delights with the comments on my photographs, and sometimes with the one photograph, somebody likes it for certain reasons, for the same reason somebody else doesn't like it.
Yeah.
So it's all very interesting. And NIPA, Northern Ireland Photographic Association. But I enjoy taking street photography, and I've always, if I'm at a social gathering of some sort, I always manage to get photographs of people doing something completely oblivious to the fact that I'm there. So you get expressions, you'll capture a moment, capture an interaction, and I love that. I've done a wee bit of street photography, which I really enjoy. Been on a few sessions in a studio with, lighting and stuff like that, being guided for taking portraits. Want to do that more, just lack of practice. Enjoy landscapes, macro. So I'm big into wildlife as well. I want to do a bit of bird photography. That's where I'm at. But it's just a time factor trying to get creative with it. So I've kind of had, private sector, go get them, sort of be self-motivating and this kind of stuff, which I still am. And then into the public sector, completely different ball games, a different world. And you can see that when you meet people who have never been in the other environment. It's just a different mindset, different approach. Not necessarily one's better than the other. So
you're saying you want me to bark orders at you and tell you to get on with it?
Aye, that kind of thing. I'll raise my hand when I want to ask a question. But no, that's where I'm at. Want to get a bit better at this. Simple.
Okay. Well, sorry, Ian, just for other folks, Ian came, I think it was my black and white class or one of my walkabout classes you came to in the past. I had one queued up for this month, and obviously it's been cancelled, but and I'm planning to go back to doing them, and they're very popular. But yeah, Ian's very good at photography, even though he doesn't realize he is. And yeah, no, well, I just from one photographer to another, I really like your work, but he finds it hilarious that I like his work. Anyway, in short, thank you very much for that. Sky, you're if you want to talk, yeah, you can get into more detail. I know you were keeping it. Sky's an arts teacher too, and I would very strongly recommend all of you, if you're at the kind of improver stage in art, to look at other arts. Painting, drawing, sculpture, anything like that is extremely useful as a photographer. It might seem very weird and abstract and all that, but as soon as you go to do a class like that, you'll discover, oh my God, this is all the same. It's just they don't use a camera. So anyway, that being said, over to Sky.
Yeah, it teaches you how to see.
Yes.
Yes, I'm Sky. I primarily work as an artist and I work as a model as well. I would have had before this had my own life drawing class where I would have got people to come in and pose who've never posed before, and it would be a range of different level of artists would come along. Class has actually been really interesting because over the years of running it, and I've been running it for 3 years I think now, so a lot of the artists that come to the class have actually posed for the class as well, which is, I really like that, everybody getting a chance to express themselves in multiple different ways. Yeah, I've done a bit of photography work in the past before, people, a few weddings, hand fastings, things like that. But yeah, I suppose I've was kind of struggled a bit with really understanding exactly what it is with the camera. You kind of know what settings in a certain mode and you kind of can stick by them. I'd love taking weird creative ones, but maybe not necessarily known how I got them. So yeah, keen to get a grasp on it and really feel like I know it. Okay,
thanks for that, Sky.
Yeah.
Who's next on the list? I was going by the list and it's just moved around. Andrew, I'm going to pick on you next, sorry.
Oh, okay. So I'm on furlough, like half the country, most of the country, or whatever. Work-wise, manufacturing, engineering, all that sort of analytical stuff. Wouldn't call myself a photographer, but I do like to take photos, if you understand. Been doing it for years. It's been everything between travel photography, concert photography, but never with a proper photo pass. So with all the ins and outs of making that a good photo without bringing in proper equipment or looking like a photographer. So that's a task in itself,
Yeah.
So something small enough that works out okay for you and gets the light or whatever. I've taken photos of sunsets, landscape, animals, insects, all sorts of different things. And I suppose I'm just looking for, I've an understanding of, parts of it. I think I take a reasonable photograph. Some people comment they're good. Some of them I think they all look the same, and I'm thinking somebody else would take that photo differently. There's only so many ways to take a photo of a tree, but then I see other people's photos and I go, I would never have thought to do it that way. So I suppose I'm looking for a bit of different slant on it, a different angle on it. that's about it. Nothing more
All right.
crazy than
No, that's good. Thank you. Okay, Morris.
Morris McGuire, town planning consultant for my sins. So you come to me if you don't get your extension or your shopping centre, whatever it is, and we try to make it happen for you. On the artistic side, I like writing. I've got short stories broadcast. I want to push that a bit further. From the artistic end of things, I suppose photography is the same sort of thing. It's in writing, a dot on a page is enough for me. That's what I hate knowing the conclusion of things. I like to know where the dot expands into. With photography, I found it relaxing, and but I'm convinced that I would need further nudge to go that wee bit further. As Matthew knows, that I'm in the beginner's class, and I took the camera with me on my walks from prison here. And but I'm convinced that an invisible force took Vaseline and smudged my lens and deliberately wrecked my photographs. So whenever one comes through in focus, it's a complete triumph, and I punch the air. So I do want to move on, but slowly, and as Matthew pointed out, we can tiptoe back to the beginner's class if it all turns out to be overwhelming. So that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you. Just for reference, Morris and some of the other folks were in the middle of the beginners class when the Crescent had to take the unfortunate decision to just cancel all classes. Everyone I've talked to since, I've told them, you were kind of qualified to shoot in manual from about week 4, and then we just did a lot of sort of faffing around to try and cement it. So you were all good enough to be doing manual anyway. And I usually leave it to the last class to sort of say, congrats, you're all like experts now, because you'd already learnt it all. Even in the first day doing the shutter class, you'd learned the key concept, which is that you're kind of in control of everything. And that's kind of like this whole, circles and pencil thing. So if you're from the beginners and you're feeling lost, stick with it a bit, but you're more than welcome to switch back to beginners. I have had people attend. I have a fellow who's attended, I think it would be 3 of my beginners classes, just because he keeps buying new cameras, and every time he gets a new camera, he finds it really hard. So he just comes back to the class, even though he's an extremely adept photographer. He comes to the intermediate classes too, but he comes to the beginners class just because he finds it really helpful to have somebody show him what to do on the camera. So you're more than welcome in either class. If you feel like you're out of your depth, happy to have you back in beginners. And then if you change your mind, happy to have you back in intermediate. It doesn't matter to me at all. So who's next? We have Darian.
Hi. Well, like Sky, I've just been with you this morning. And I've done quite a bit of photography over the years, but my background was acupuncture and physiotherapy. I'm retired from that now. And I've sold some of my work. So I enjoy the process of taking photographs, but I'm very poor at technology. I really just don't like it. So that's why I'm going to these classes. I might decide just to stick with the beginners and focus on that and really try and get it into my head. But I listen in today if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine. Don't worry. That's great. Thanks very much. Okay, who have we got left? Elpetha.
Hi everyone. Yeah, my name's Alfifa. I am furloughed currently, like everybody else. But my job is a marketing manager for a group of bars and restaurants in the city centre. So where work is concerned, photography has been food and drink photography, which I had, when I started, I was quite bad at it. I found it really hard to take good photographs, especially low lighting inside the bars. I just could not. I had a professional camera, my mum's, and I took it with me to work every day, and the pictures never got any better, even though I tried different angles beside, windows, and I just couldn't get working it. And I thought, I didn't really want to go online and look at YouTube tutorials because I find them a wee bit overwhelming, especially if they say one thing and you don't understand it, then you've missed the whole entire point of what they're trying to say. So I thought I'd go to the beginners class, and it really, really helped me. So I'm able to take pictures indoors Since I've been furloughed though, I've been outdoor and I don't know how to get better pictures because I learned how to take good pictures inside and now I can't really work like loads of light. So I think I have to go I have to go back to the start and kind of like
Oh
relearn.
no! Well, I mean,
It's ridiculous. Also, just a wee bit about kind of why I'm really interested. Other than being good at photography for work, I kind of eventually want to go freelance, and I want to be able to take on clients on a retainer basis to do marketing and social media rather than work for just a set company. So me being, you know, me having better photography skills will really put me in a position where I can do that, and you know, it's a no-brainer for me. So yeah, and I also really enjoy doing it, you know, regardless of work reasons. So
okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Just for a bit of reference, it's, and I'm terrible. I have a weird name, as you can see. You can probably see it here. I say Elpitha, or what? Say it again for me, so I can.
It's Elpitha.
Elpitha. No, it matters. It matters because I get like, you wouldn't believe all the stuff I get, to be honest with you. But I'm just, because I have a hilarious name doesn't mean I'm good at pronouncing other people with interesting names. So I will say it wrong all the time. But I wanted to say that you came to class with an extreme difficulty curve. Shooting in pubs and clubs is very, very, very difficult. And it's awesome that you're able to do that now. And yeah, thanks to my class, etc. Shooting outside is much easier. Just like forget everything I taught you and relax. Basically, yeah, it's one of the product photography. You cheat all the time and use lots of lights, but in the case of bars and pubs and clubs, a lot of times you're forced into using the ambient light, which is almost always diabolical on purpose because they want it to be nice and ambient and dark and things in a bar. So you've gone from, I know it might not seem it, but being able to take good pictures in a bar is a very, very high degree of technical competency. And then taking pictures outside, relatively speaking, is much easier. So just try to relax if you're taking pictures outside of your house. Anyway, thank you all for that. It just helps me know what you want to get out of the class and what your background and experience is. From my point of view, sounds like you're all in the right place. You've all got an idea about photography and you all want to get better. It's been called intermediate in the past, but that tended to scare people off. They didn't feel like they were good enough. Other people didn't feel like intermediate was something they should do because they thought they were very good. I've changed the name of it now and I'm really just calling it the art of photography, and it's all about just getting better at photography. And in short, you guys pick what you want to do and I will help you get better at it. We will practice and do things. If it's something that I have a lot of expertise in, photography is an extremely broad thing. I am happy to talk for months about portrait photography and can teach you posing, lighting, makeup, all sorts of stuff. I'm a makeup artist as well, by the way. I'm a trained makeup artist, all that. But anyway, long story short, if it's something like that, I could just talk about it forever. If it's other things that I've done, like wedding photography, I did that for a few years. I'm good at it, but I wouldn't consider myself to be an expert, but I can help you. But some of you will be better at types of photography than me. So a lot of times in these classes, I learn a lot from the students as well. So it's not just this is more of a, I guess, like, I don't want to say photography club because a lot of people have really bad experiences of photography clubs. But it's a little bit more like a club where, yes, I will teach you to the best of my experience, but also you guys will definitely teach me. I learn things from my beginners all the time, so I expect to learn things from you guys too. So that being said, if you're all happy enough, if everybody is zoomed up and everybody is... Oh, Una, apologies. I forgot Una. Una, you're not getting away from this. Unmute your mic. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. I almost forgot you. Apologies. I'm trying. My daughter told me there's a way to get all of you on screen at once, but I still haven't worked it out yet. If you would please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm Una. I'm a retired teacher, and I've been to Matthews. I've been twice to your beginners class, haven't I?
Yeah,
Yep.
I think so.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So I just want to find out more about photography. I have lots of time in my hands now, and I just like to find out a wee bit more and getting more involved in it. So that's what I'm here for.
Okay, thanks very much. Sorry about forgetting you. It's not that this thing along the top of my screen just moves around, so you were all in a certain order, and then it jumbled you all up. So I'm gonna have to work this out. But yes, now that we're all introduced and everybody knows, what I want you to do is this is a really hard. This is seriously hard for the first class, but I want you to take 5 minutes. Go get yourself a cup of tea if you need to, or whatever you want to have a drink of. And I want you to take a couple of minutes on your own to think about what you want out of photography. Some of you have said it very specifically when we were talking. Some of you found it really difficult and are like, I just want to get better. If you can think of like one thing. So for me, just to give you an idea, I have been doing people photography for years. I started studying makeup and posing a long time ago. I've spent maybe 5 or 6 years studying posing. Posing as in how you sit, stand, carry yourself, body language mainly, is a massive subject all on its own. It's something I've studied in great length, and I would consider myself quite expert with basically female body language and posing, but I'm a bit of a intermediate when it comes to male. And there is very strong masculine and very strong feminine posing. For example, if you have a family with a husband and wife, you can pose them. You can take two women and make them look like a couple or make them look like sisters, depending on how you pose them. And it's something I know about and I'm good at with female and feminine. It's not always a woman, it could be a male with very feminine body language, but I am very aware of that, and I'm so with male stuff, and I want to get better at it, and the only way for me to get better at it is for basically trying to get as many male clients in as I can. I'd said to Morris about this in the past, 90% of people who contact me about photography are females. It's either someone wanting a picture of themselves or someone wanting a picture of their spouse. It's extremely rare. I hope he won't be embarrassed when I out him. He asked me would I do pictures of him and his family, and I think I've had maybe 5 men in the last 20 years contact me. So it's but it's something that I am not an expert at and that I want to get better at. My wife bought me a book all about male posing for photography, like this thick. It's like its own subject that I've been spending 6 months studying. Just to give you an idea, that's just one subject, and one tiny thing. There are books like that for child. If you pose children, if you pose, just all posing is like something you could learn, and believe it or not, it's something that a lot of celebrities learn when you see them stand very nicely and things like that when they're on TV. TV presenters on Good Morning Britain and stuff like that. They are taught this stuff. So it is a photography skill, but it's not a photography skill. But it has a dramatic impact on my people photography. So I want to get better at that. I want you to go get a cup of tea and I want you to think for 5 minutes. I'm going to get a drink too. I want you to think for 5 minutes. You can talk amongst yourself if you wish, but basically one thing you want to get better at, just one. And don't say photography. So I want something specific. It can be as super specific as you like. It can be, I've never got a picture of a kingfisher and I really want to get one. Or it can be, I want to get better at bird photography. Or anything in between. There are almost limitless possibilities when it comes to photography. And if you haven't thought about it, have a wee think about it now. Okay? So I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Hello.
Good.
Need help? You stuck, Elpitha?
No, I just kind of know what I want help with.
Oh, all right. Did you get a cup of tea? Oh,
Yeah.
there you go. You were pre-prepared. I know. It's well, how do we laugh in the beginners class? It was like clothes are required, but you know, pajamas or whatever, it's all good.
I'm not wearing pajamas.
No, and one of the beginners may or may not have been wearing pajamas.
Oh.
My children have got to quite like, it is quite matter of factly, like they're teenagers, but they were kind of like, you know, well, Dad, isn't it a difference between pajamas and clothes, just like because pajamas have like sheep on them and stuff? And I'm like, pretty much. There's not really any difference, to be fair. So yes, as long as you're comfy, I don't care. I'm only interested in your minds, basically. So anyway, so for those that have their tea and are back, well, you can cheat a wee bit. You can pick my brains a bit, and I can help you before the rest of them come back. So if you're 100%, is anyone you're? I mean, Ian's probably finding this difficult.
You're a mind reader.
I already know who out of all of you is finding this difficult, and it's okay. I'm not gonna lie to you. It took me probably 5 years to work out what I wanted out of this. So you know, it's not you're not gonna get over it today. If you have even a vague idea today, great. If you have a very specific idea, wow, you're probably doing a lot better than me, to be honest with you. I at the minute I'm learning about male photography because I have had a lot of folks, and I feel like I can help any lady or any gay guy with posing. But if I have a very butch fella, I feel like I'm feeling them when it comes to posing them. So I wanted to get better at that because I could perceive a weakness in it on my part. But before I even understood any posing at all whatsoever, I didn't even know how bad I was at doing it. So a lot of times it is something that you maybe think, oh, I'd like to get better at this, but you have no clue where you're at. It could be something you're already very good at as well. It could just be that you're kind of aimed in the wrong direction. So we'll start with someone who definitely knows what they want. I'm going to say it wrong again. Elpitha.
Okay, so obviously, like the kind of close-up photography and the indoor stuff, not that I've mastered it, but I feel like I'm not really going to put it to use until I'm back to work, which might be a while yet. In the meantime, I've been taking very kind of, it isn't just one specific type of picture. I've been taking some portrait shots, I've been doing like close-ups of makeup, I've been doing jewelry, I've been doing outdoors, and I think that I can kind of work out the lighting and kind of how to make the, you know, the best kind of lighting for the picture. But what I would like to really work on is kind of more of a creative, how to put the picture together compositionally. So how to incorporate different either props in a way that it's like not overly staged. So pretty much how to stage a setup if you were wanting to do, you know, product photography, or if you were wanting to do like more kind of lifestyle-y type stuff. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. You have no idea what you're asking about, but don't worry, I do. So
Right.
What you're talking about is, I would lump this under this whole category of pre-visualization. And it's basically that you are creating the photo and you've come to the realization that it's not just about pointing a camera at things. So I'm guessing, like, if you're trying to advertise a bar, it's not just about showing a beer. You want to show the background. You want to show you're telling a story. Yeah. So that's actually common in an awful lot of photography. It's something actually that I teach in pretty much every single class, but we could focus on it specifically. And it's really just about having an idea on one hand and then putting in place stuff to make it real in your picture. And some people do it in camera, which is what I usually do. Some people do it in camera with a bit of post-processing, and some people just do literally the whole thing almost entirely from scratch in post-processing. But at the end of the day, it doesn't actually matter at all. It is, you're thinking of something you want to create, and you're making it. And if any of you have done any kind of art of any description, you'll discover that it's exactly the same. So I think it was Michelangelo used to say that there were these beautiful sculptures in the marble, and he was just releasing them. And that is what I would use as a classic example of pre-visualization. He had this very strong idea of a beautiful woman or a man or whatever, and he knew that he could do it, and he just had to like free it from the marble. To somebody else, it's just a giant chunk of marble, but to him, it was just potential. And that's what I call pre-visualization. I think I call it that a lot in art circles, but in photography, people sometimes thinks it weird that you should be setting out to create a photo or a story or something in your photography. So I've a notepad here. I'm taking a note of classes that I can teach. That would be pre-visualization, or possibly composition, depending on they're similar but different. Okay, that's one. Who's next on my list? I think it is. Let me see. Oh, I have disappeared somebody. Okay, Sky, you're next. What do you want? Oh, Sky, you're on mute.
Sorry, I had to take a call there earlier. I would like to learn how to take photos that have some blur and some parts of it that are still like the jiu-jitsu pictures you were talking about.
Okay.
But it's like to the extent of knowing to get those photos, what, which elements do I need to change? Because I know there's a few different combinations you can get that are better than other combinations, and I never quite got that, like sometimes I would use a shutter speed higher or lower to get it, or sometimes I don't know, I just...
Okay, so just for other people's reference, in the beginner's class, I was talking about how I've participated in judo and taken judo photography for the club I was in at competitions and things, and I took what would be considered to be like wrong judo photography because I wanted them to be quite frenetic and blurry and to show a lot of like scary kind of fast moving and fast pace to it. It's generally under the remit of like slow shutter photography would teach you those skills, or light painting. Light painting was one of the classes the beginners were really looking forward to. I had it in my head anyway. It's something that everybody thinks everybody who's heard of it wants to try it, and everyone who's never heard of it always thinks it's amazing when they try it. Light painting would give you a basis for that, but there's, in a separate sense, there's the slow shutter photography. I'm writing all of these down as individual classes. I have about 30 classes I can teach, and they don't really have strong boundaries. Some of the things blur into each other. I can teach, for example, a portrait class, which is just portraits, or I could teach you a fashion photography class, which is, people think it's the same, but it's not. And then there's male fashion, which is different again, and male portraits, which is different again. So you can have a portrait class, or you can have 8 portrait classes or 25 or whatever you like. So yours, I would class those as light painting / slow shutter. Both of those would help you, but we'll see what everybody picks, and then we'll decide together as a group. So, right. Darian.
Well as reminding myself and learning again about all the technicalities which the beginners class I think will do, I also want to produce a little photo book, and in fact there are photographs that I've already taken, and I've written quite a lot of text about a meditation that goes that links with the photograph, but I don't know how to make it into a book. So that would be, I'd like to get that completed, as I started it ages ago and then I've left it now for a long time. So that would be my aim at the moment.
I was just munching on my Alpen bar. Sorry about that. Right. That is, I mean, it's not photography really. However, happy to teach that. It's still part of the creative process. There is a how to print things. Apologies to Sky because she'll know all this back to front. Mounting and presentation of your artwork is something to teach all art students because it's almost equally as important as the actual creating your art. So like canvases and how to decide on mounts and borders and photographic books and how to design them and get them printed and where to get them printed is just a natural progression of that for the photography community. Happy to teach about that. It's not as expensive as you think, and it's much easier than you think. It's actually, I know I haven't got around to it myself, but many of my photography friends have had their own books produced. You can do it online on a piecemeal basis. You can get 1 copy for yourself or 100 copies, and they do it like an on-demand service basically. So you can literally have a coffee table book with your own name on it and your own photos in it, if you so wish. So if that's something folks are interested in, yeah, happy to cover that.
And can you do as much text? You know, I would want the
yeah,
same.
you
A lot of text.
believe it or not, there's a lot of kind of like, they're almost they're web based, and they're basically just you fire the text and the pictures in, and then you spend hours and hours deciding on how you want to position everything yourself, and then just tell them to do it and away they go. I did it in the past with wedding albums. That's something that's very common for photographers, is to design wedding albums for couples. And it's actually no different than designing a book. If you've worked in the print, somebody mentioned print before. Ian will know about this. Bleed margins and RGB files and Pantones and all this kind of stuff. If you've worked in marketing, you'll know a little bit about it too. There's services that'll just take all the donkey work away and make it easy for you, or you can just jump into it yourself and do the whole thing yourself too. So I would class that as almost desktop publishing. In this day and age, you basically send a PDF to whoever you like and they print it out for you. But yes, we can talk about that if that's something folks are interested in. Who's next? Morris.
I would be interested in birds, definitely, but I accidentally took a photograph of what I thought was a wasp, but when I looked it up, it was a hovering fly.
Oh.
It was just sitting like that over the plants, and I took a wild guess that it was a meter away, set the thing, and then took the photograph. And then when I zoomed in on its face, I will never think of an insect again the same way. It was exquisite. So I'd like to take more. We tried, because there's a lot more bumblebees, thank God, about these days, we tried to take a photograph of one of those, and there's an 80 mil on this, and I tried to zoom in, and it was hopeless. You know, I don't know how to focus. So I would really like, if I'm lucky enough to sneak up on an insect, to take an accurate photograph of what the wee thing really looks like. Because it was a complete surprise. The other thing, there's a robin keeps making fun of me every morning because when I try to take his photograph, he takes so quickly that my hand moves with him, and I can't understand why the photograph is crap.
Do you have a cat, Morris? Because if you have a cat, it's probably the bird. The birds in my neighborhood tease our cat. They do it out on purpose. They'll actually land like where he can see and get at them, and they just fly away very quickly. Deliberately on purpose. I've seen it when I was in holiday in Turkey once. It's something birds do just to annoy cats. It's quite shocking. So if you have a cat, you might want to hide your cat, and then the robin. It's not that the robin's afraid of the cat. It's just the robin's teasing the cat. It's quite fascinating to see. But from that, I got wildlife photography, because any kind of bugs or animals are technically wildlife, and macro photography. Those are two separate things, but actually, when you go to take pictures of insects in the wild, you have to do both together. So macro photography would traditionally be when you're taking pictures of very close-up subjects, and then wildlife photography is, I would class a lot of child photography as wildlife photography, to be honest with you, because you don't have any control over what they're doing. It's similar and has similar skills and techniques. Okay, thank you for that. Who's next? Who have I not got? I'm going to go Una next, because I forgot her last time.
I think it comes down to what you were saying earlier on, and with Elpetha as well. It's that sort of whole idea of looking at a picture and knowing that there's a picture in there, and a nice picture in there, but not being able to take it out. So it's that pre-visualization composition I think you were talking about.
Okay, that's okay. Yep, same thing.
I would really be interested in that.
All right. Okay, nice easy one. Right, now on to a really tough one. Ian.
Not that tough. I was thinking of a couple of things, but actually I'm interested in what Morris has said as well.
Okay.
Because I'm close to Portmore, and although it's closed to the public, I can cycle there and sneak in. And I recently did acquire a second-hand lens with a lot of reach on it. So it really would be macro stroke wildlife that I'd be interested in starting to improve. There's a few Facebook groups as well. If Morris is on Facebook, whatever, macro photography and this kind of thing. And if you haven't seen anything, you'll be amazed at some of the stuff people get. And with macro, you know, the depth of field issue is a big thing. So it's sort of getting into the way of getting that right. That would be, yeah, my main approach. There's also a website I've looked at, and I submitted some photographs which would never make it to David Attenborough or anything at all, just photographs. And I submitted them to this website, and where I live, there aren't many species recorded. So I sent a couple of these photographs in, and they come back approved. Like one was a shoveler duck, a common tern, and a little grebe. So they hadn't been recorded, kind of where I am. And now I have a record for them, which is kind of weird. Photographs were something you just take with an ordinary camera. Not good at it, want to get better at it. So that's, okay. I'd be sort of singing from the same hymn sheet as Morris there.
Okay, dead on. Thank you. Andrew, what about you?
I'd say everything that's been talked about is something I've had to go.
Okay.
There's all stuff I'd be interested in. Composition of landscape and knowing which bit to take the photo of is one that I think a bit of help on that would be good. Okay. Like the guys were saying about the insects, I've also done a bit of that. I've struggled to get the bumblebee in focus, especially the wings, things like that. Also light trails and stuff along exposure, done a wee bit of that, you know, traffic and water and stuff. And so I think a lot of that would interest me, but probably the general composition of the shot, not okay. Setting it up so much, but like a natural shot, you're trying to, which tree do I leave out? And
yep.
I'm trying to put too many things into the shot because they're there, but maybe it takes away from the shot. I don't know. I've seen a lot of tutorials on it, and it all seems very simplistic. But when you're standing in front of it, you know, all this rule of thirds and parallel lines and diagonal lines, and maybe that's not the scenario you've got, or the exact thing they're telling you not to do seems like the best shot, and you're thinking, well, that's not what you've been told. So
yep.
I suppose composition, but I'd be interested in most of the rest of it, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Who have I left out? I'm scrolling here. Let me see. Is that everybody? Did I get everybody? I think I did. Scream now if I didn't. This is your last chance. Got everybody right. Okay. So I have pre-visualization, composition, light painting, slow shutter, post-production, wildlife photography, macro, and then landscape/composition. But essentially, a lot of these are, composition is something that artists have been arguing about and or learning about and studying for, I don't know, when was the first cave painting? You know, it's quite literally, it's something that affects all types of visual arts. It's not something that we own as photographers. I've had painters come to my classes and they find it hilarious that we argue about all the same things they do and they never touch a camera. So it's something that you could learn. I have books like this for male posing. I actually have a 2 set of books just about composition, 2 very large books that are just about composition, and they're from an artistic point of view about what Sky mentioned at the very start about learning to develop your eye, and they're pitched at like painters, and they're from I think they're from the 50s or something like that, and everything in them still applies today to photography. So I will basically put together the ones that I have that I do. Light painting I have a set class for. We'll have to prep for it because you guys will have to go get things around your house. You won't have to buy anything, don't worry, but you'll have to get things about the house. Slow shutter, you'll need to have a tripod or a table or something to be able to practice it. Post-production is mostly a talky thing. Normally I would bring in a laptop. I don't know how I'm going to work that out with this. We should be able to work something out. I might be able to do this and have my laptop on my lap or screen share with you. But it's a lot of theory type stuff. Macro is something that you can practice easily in the house. Household items actually make for some of the most interesting macro photography subjects. Wildlife, if it's birds that you're interested in, I'll have to get you to make a paper plane or some paper planes. So we'll sort all this out by the end of class. For today, because I never know what everybody's going to pick, I normally stick to something pretty generic, and I actually talk about composition for the first lesson because it's universal. It applies to all types of photography. It genuinely doesn't matter at all whatsoever what you are taking pictures of. Composition is one of the key skills. Some of you already have a really good eye. I've seen your pictures and talked to you about this in the past, and you won't really recognize it. It's something that you can develop and work on though, so we're going to have a wee chat about it today, if that's okay. Before we do, I will pick a class for next week, and then so we don't forget, because I almost always forget at the end of class. Let me see. What about, we could do slow shutter. We'll do slow shutter is something that encompasses light painting. It also encompasses sport photography and things like that. And we actually had a little bit of it in the beginners class today, the tiniest wee bit for about 10 minutes, where I was teaching them that it's up to you about how you express what's in your photos, and you have the control over it. And there are speeds for things. And if you know those speeds, you can exert some creative control over how you reflect reality. So we'll do slow shutter next week. You need a tripod or a table, or if you don't have a tripod, get a sock and fill it with rice. You can just put, you've probably got some rice around the house. I hear it's one of those things people have been hoarding. Basically, any way of keeping your camera steady without you able to touch it. So if you have a desk, you can lean it on, or if you have a tripod or anything at all, that's what you'll need for next week, and a camera. The other thing you may need is, if you're in a very bright room, the ability to turn the blinds down in your room or pull your curtains. Those are the two things you need for next week's class. So if you can, try and get that sorted out. If you're stuck at all, give me a shout after class. You can give me a ring. The password for the class is my phone number. Just put a 0 on the front, or drop me a message on social media or anything like that, and I'll help you out. You don't need a tripod. You can, but you do need the ability to keep your camera in one place. Try, if you already have one, don't worry. Anyway, so that's that. Composition then. This is something that it's very hard to teach because it's different for different people. Andrew touched on it by saying that essentially somebody told him to do something and he wanted to do something else, but that was the wrong thing. Can you elaborate a little bit on that example, if you can remember what it was?
There's been a few different scenarios like that, but it's the idea that there might be 2 or 3 features in front of you, and by trying to get them all into the frame, you may only have you can't get to a position where you put them all in the frame. So you've maybe got part of it on one side sort of cropped and part of it on the other side cropped, and now you've got all 3 features. It just doesn't look right. You'd probably be better forgetting about one of the interesting things, taking 2 together and maybe taking a separate shot, and it's deciding, but then does that take away from the size of it? I don't know, maybe it's fields or waterfall or whatever it happens to be.
Okay.
That would be one scenario, yeah. No.
Okay. Don't worry, by the way, we're going to cover, today's a bit of a no class because I can't prep whatever we need. So this, we'll cover composition again. This is today, but we'll do it again, don't worry. What you're talking about is basically, it's talked about a lot in other artistic circles. It's almost never talked about in photography circles, which depresses me a lot. I had a normal arts background, so I did painting and sculpture and stuff. And artists talk about it all the time. And if you look at paintings and sculptures and things, they talk about this all the time. It's called visual weight. And it's basically, composition is one thing. So composition is where you choose things to be in your frame, and that's talked about a lot in the photography competition, in the photography community. So people will say, oh, your composition, I really like your composition. So they maybe like where you put the horizon, and they like where you put the sun, and they like this, that, and the other. And that's talked about a lot. Has everyone kind of heard that concept about composition? You kind of, if you don't, say now, but it's basically you're choosing what you show in your picture and where you put the things. That's what I would call like composition. Everyone know that, okay? Yeah, I've heard of that term and stuff. Okay, so that's picking what's in your picture, but visual weight is about you assigning a value or an importance to the thing in your picture. So visual weight is a very, very different thing. I'm trying to think of, let me see, examples that I've done. I did this on the class with Ian. We were out at the Lagan Weir and we took pictures of the little boat that sits docked there. I cannot remember the name of the boat, but I've been on the boat and talked to the skipper and did pictures of him in the past. It is a tiny little tugboat that does tours up and down the Lagan. When you take a picture of it, you can get a beautiful picture. If you, let me see if I can share you one of these, because I have pictures like this. If it helps, I'll talk you through a picture. I have lots of stuff prepped, but it never seems to work the way I want it to. Now you're probably seeing. Can you see my screen, folks?
No, not anymore.
No dear. Hold on. Let me see.
Yeah, we can see it.
Oh yeah, so yeah.
Okay, so
Bloopers.
oh, they're on the Facebook. These are if you go look it on my Facebook, I've been doing classes that I have 3 teenagers and a cat that are trying to scupper every time I try to record anything for YouTube. No, these are the video classes. I'm trying to think of, let me see. I'll find some of my, unfortunately, if one of you guys wants to screen show a picture, I'm happy to talk through it. But in the absence of that at this first class, I'll have to use mine. So let me see. Let's pick one of these. I'll try to put my good pictures in the marketing. So composition. All right, here you go. I'll pick a really weird, actually, no, I'll pick something a bit more sensible first to start with. So, can you all see the big fish?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So this is
No.
just no. Oh no.
Just a thumbnail.
Oh darn it. Give it a wee sec. Let's see. Wait a minute. Can I share this another way? How's that? Is that better?
No,
Still
I
thumbnails?
see about 30 thumbnails, but I don't see
No.
any of them.
All right, hold on. Darn it.
Oh, I see the big fish, but it's just a thumbnail.
Is it? Hold on a minute.
We click on it. Will that help?
I have. It's because I'm on Windows 10
Oh.
and it's a bit of a nightmare. Hold on. Now's the time for a cup of tea, by the way.
Excuse me.
Good old technical issues. I'm supposed to be able to share JPEGs here, but it's not going to let me. You can probably find it on my. I wonder, can I share you the link? And you can find it on my Facebook instead. How's that? Is that better?
No, still
No different.
It's just stuck on that original.
Yeah, it's not showing the. It's. I have it as a file. I might be able to save it to you as a file. Hold on.
There's a Zoom class as well.
Let's see. Right. If I do that, and I
Maybe getting somewhere now.
That better?
No.
not yet.
I am giving up on screen sharing. Oh well. Advanced sharing options. Let me see. It worked the other time I tried it. I don't want to show you the video because that's boring. I wonder can we. Okay, portion of screen. This might work. I draw
It's more like it.
You can see it now.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, got
There
it
we go.
now.
Right. Apologies, folks. It's supposed to work by magic, but it never does. So this is just an example. It doesn't really matter what picture. I was just trying to pick something at all whatsoever where I personally exerted some sort of control about what was in the picture, which is the composition. But then I tried to assign visual weight to it, which is a different thing altogether. So composition, if you've heard of it, I wanted the big fish in the picture. So I put it in the middle of the picture, which can be considered to be like a rookie mistake sometimes. From my point of view, that's what I wanted. So I got exactly what I wanted. That would answer a lot of your questions. If you want something and you do it, then great. I wouldn't worry about anything else anybody tells you. But I wanted it in the middle, but I also wanted to do something and to tell a story with this picture. I wanted to try and communicate something with it. So what is your kind of first impression of it? Yes, it's a picture of the big fish. On its own as the big fish, it's a really boring, rubbish picture of the big fish. That was intentional. What was I trying to communicate with this picture? Just say what you see. It's subjective.
You're
Tourist attraction.
Okay. What else?
you
You've
took a
all
photo of somebody taking a photo.
Yes, I took a picture of someone taking a picture. Anybody else?
The person taking the picture isn't focus because it's out of focus. She's out of focus.
Yep, that is one of my old students. Clemence, you call her. She's French, like me. Yeah, so I made her blurry on purpose, but I will not say any more about that. Anyone else? What do you think?
I think that if the girl hadn't have been in the picture, you wouldn't have felt as though you were there as much as you do now that she's there.
Okay, yeah. So I took a picture. You could take the same picture from the same angle, and someone was beside. Apologies, by the way, if one of you was this student, because I can't remember who it was. But somebody was taking a picture, and they were sitting right beside me at the same time, and they didn't like theirs because they got a very different picture than me. I chose a shallow depth of field so that the fish would be in focus and that the student would be out of focus on purpose. Some people would do that and say, oh, that's an accident. I want to see who that is. I didn't want to see who that was. I wanted her to be anonymous, and I also wanted her to be a wee bit interesting because you can't exactly see who or what she is. And if you spend a wee bit of time looking at it, you discover that yes, she's holding a camera, and then if you put your brain to work, you think, okay, she's taking a picture of the fish. So this photo isn't actually about the big fish. It's trying to represent like a tourist or a student or someone doing photography. And that was trying what I was put out with my picture. I could have took this picture in about 100 different ways. I really like it because it does what I want. It conveys some sort of like being there, being a tourist, being a photography student, rather than if she wasn't in the frame, it would have just been a picture of the big fish. If she was in the frame and it was super sharp, you might think that she was a subject of the picture, but it's the relationship between her and the fish is what I was trying to capture. So I made a creative control choice to deliberately make her out of focus. I'm sitting doing air quotes and stuff here, but you guys can't see my face anymore. So I'm making a air quotes. I made a choice. I in some circles I did it wrong because if I'm a portrait photographer, the person in my picture, I mean I am, you know, by trade, the person in my picture is horribly out of focus. So as a portrait photographer, that's a big fail. And if I was getting paid to take her picture, I would have failed terribly at that and she'd be very unhappy. I was trying to do something else and I got what I wanted. And as hard as it is to hear this, and I'm going to talk to you about visual weight and teach you some of the techniques and things involved in visual weight, but it's up to you. That's the hardest thing by far. I know Ian's had a lot of trouble with this and some of the other students in terms of what to point your camera at and what to include in your composition. But then the next step above that is how to assign importance to things in your pictures. And for me, I used focus. So something being in focus and something being out of focus. But I actually assign quite a bit of importance to Clemence because she's quite big in the frame, even though she's out of focus. So I had a whole lot of things. Now I had a couple of goes at this. I didn't just go behind her and take a picture and be like, great, I'm happy. I took a picture with both of them in focus and I didn't like it because it just looked like a tourist taking a picture of another tourist. And then I deliberately put her out of focus and I took a picture. And then I deliberately put the fish out of focus and took a picture. So there are 3 versions of this picture. And the one that I liked is the one that I kept, which is this one. And that's just down to me and what I wanted out of it. You can look at it and say, oh dear, that's really bad. You can look at it and say, wow, I love that. You can be anywhere in the middle, and that's completely up to you. Possibly the hardest thing to understand when you get more into photography is to try and trust your gut. Now, if I was being paid by Tourism Ireland to take a picture of the fish, I would epic fail with this picture. Tell me why. If you've seen tourist pictures, you've all noticed this, but you haven't really thought about it consciously.
Too much clutter around it.
Yes, it's a bad picture of the fish, but I've seen much worse pictures of the fish on Tourism Ireland, believe it or not. What's the one thing you see on Tourism Ireland more than anything else?
Cranes.
What was that, Sky?
Cranes?
Cranes? No.
Loads of tourists.
Yeah, tourist Mars. You see pictures of Giant's Causeway. You see pictures of, when you go to Tourism Ireland, they show the Giant's Causeway, they show the cranes, they show the fish, they show all the cool stuff. They show happy tourists. They show young, middle-aged, old, black, white, straight, gay. They want to capture as many different categories as they can. They show as many happy tourists as they possibly can because that's what they're trying to sell. Happy tourists. They want you to be happy coming here. So as a Tourism Ireland picture, this would be an epic fail because there's one lone sad tourist all on her own. Can't even see her face. Is she smiling? Is she happy? Don't know. And that's why I'm bringing it up is that same picture, if there's 2 different intents from the person taking it, it's up to you. If I had taken 5 or 6 steps back, I could have included another 3 or 4 people in the class in the picture. And then it would have been more like a Tourism Ireland picture because it was including more tourists in the picture. And that was just my choice. I had a very specific thing I wanted to do. A bit of this is the pre-visualization and the using your imagination too. But it's basically that I wanted to do something and I set out to do it. So does everybody get that? And then I'll get into why and how. Yeah? You can argue with me. It's okay. It is this kind of stuff. You can argue with the photo, but you can't argue with my intent. If I wanted to do something and I'm happy with it, there's nothing, and I would strongly urge you guys to adopt this sort of, mindset. If you are happy with your photography, don't let anybody tell you anything otherwise. At the end of the day, I teach this in the beginners class near the end. Apologies, there's spoilers for the beginners. Who likes ice cream? Show of hands. Oh no, you don't like ice cream? My God. There's always one. It's all right, I'm only kidding. I'm going to pick on you. So, who likes vanilla ice cream? Whose favorite flavor is vanilla ice cream? Okay. What's the biggest selling ice cream?
No.
Vanilla. So why do they bother with all the other flavors? See, it's easy. Come on. Why? Variety. People, not everybody's favorite. My favorite's pistachio. I'm a weirdo. Nobody likes pistachio, but I do. It's my favorite. So you might think it's disgusting, and I love it. It's Dita Von T says, not everybody. Let me see if I can quote her correctly. She says, not everybody. No, everybody likes apples, but if you're an orange, what are you gonna do? So it's kind of like basically just stick with like what you are and what you do. Not everybody, you can't please everybody all of the time. The reason they sell multiple flavors of ice cream is because people have different tastes. You might not like that picture. I might like it, and neither of us is wrong. And I would very, very strongly try to get you to adopt that mindset with your photography. If you're happy with it, fine. You might find people that love it. You might find people that hate it. Unfortunately, human nature is that when people say they hate things, you take it to heart. When people say they love it, you even think they're crazy. That's just human. But in terms, you with me about the picture, but I'm going to try and how I did what, and it can be pick at all. I had to put into it. This with other pictures too. This one, you'll wait. I did a little bit of this last when we were doing things. We all have eyes and we see things with our eyes. There are a set of rules. We see specific colors, some better or some of us are. Generally, we all vaguely, but our vision is kind of the technology behind our eyes very similar. Rods and cones collect light, color data, basically merge it all, show us stuff in our. It's all very subjective. Everything you see is kind of getting on a regular basis all the time. You'll happily about that and to my point first. So I knew that from a point of view, there aren't any realers in their thing that too much. Two things, if you're fervent, the crap and make a terrible picture, never bothered to fix and care. They want to point them out at you. If you're laughing at anything, you probably don't know. Some people are pro, others good, but did to fix it. Two things that
crack me up.
the van on the left, that is
I'll be not be taking it. Out of what man tell me have to go.
The van, it's okay. It's point of view, it's control in class and it's around the border, stupid things that are the process picture. I just for 2 seconds left it in for the more. It's or not. It's more to do with creation skills, things that annoy others. Anyone else? Did anyone else really?
Would just annoy me.
Okay, did not even notice whatsoever until I even notice it until the van in the corner. I don't know if I can mouse over here. If a van is like Dan's point of view, it's off. But if you did better from your, so it's subjective. The visual, in terms of colors, not as is a kind. It's a secondary, which is like a primary colors. It's a tertiary. It's a color edge of the frame. Will draw. So there's another thing that's much annoying people. You can see
Tap at the corner
and stuff down here. Okay, be or basically an area contrast, so it can very bright and stuff. It triggers all of is over.
I don't know whether what it was.
It our boy on, and I'm happy for my photos and stuff. I'm gonna show terrible pictures. And catch you out. This might be one, but it's likely to trigger because of the never stop the eye these other things fluorescent orange.
Attention to them, make them obvious.
Yeah, so that's the beginning understanding it. It's draw attention to them and make them obvious. So why orange then?
The opposite of blue.
But why? So go on. This is really sort of massive advantage over all of you because she's a painter. Bang this in the primary school.
Projecting colour is a wheel. So.
Yeah. What are you trying to So if an orange, what's the thing? What it to be seen?
Blue.
The sea. Yeah. You throw it into the sea. Somebody's drowning. If it was blue, it'll be bloody hard to find. So they're always coloured orange because they're complementary colours to the sea. But there are other things that are coloured orange, or in this case, like bright orangey red colours. Can anybody think of anything that's painted red to draw attention? You see it every day, thousands of times a day.
Buses in London.
Buses, yep. Not buses though. This is a health and safety thing.
Traffic lights.
Traffic, right? We'll keep a list. You ready? So I'm putting imaginary thumbs up behind this picture. You can't see me. So. Number 1, traffic lights. Any more?
Signs.
Brake lights.
Signs. What was the other one?
Brake lights.
Brake lights. Yep. Anything else? Fire extinguishers. Yep. Those are all things that are colored red because we have more ability to see red and we're more triggered by red than any other color. Red is the primary color. In terms of primary colors, you have, if you're a painter, there's a set, and if you're a photographer, there's a set, and it's to do with additive and subtractive colors. But in short, there are 3 primary colors. We can argue about this till we're blue in the face. Me and Scal have a big fight about this. But basically, they are red, blue, green. I mean, red, blue, and yellow. Or whatever. But anyway, those are the primary colors. But actually, there is one primary color, which is the primary color, which is red. And the reason red is like a primacy color is because we have more green cones in our eyes than any other. So we detect light. We actually detect the luminance of light with green receptor cones in our eyes. And red is the most noticeable color to humans because it is the complementary color to the mechanics that work up our eyes. Our eyes are more green weighted. Your camera, if you're into physics and stuff, look up about Bayer sensors. And basically your camera has more green receptors on it than any other color as well for the exact same reason. because they want it to mimic our eyesight. So things are painted red to catch your attention. Red's a primacy color. When you're aware of colors that have a certain weight, you can include them or exclude them to change the impact of your picture. And it's something, a choice you make. Yes, Una. Oh, wait, are you just checking your nails? I thought you were asking a question. Okay. So I messed up by leaving that in there. However, if we look at it, right, so if you can see me moving the mouse around, Clements is this big in the photo, and this is this big in the photo. The color, shape, and size of things has a massive impact on its visual weight. And it's up to you in a lot of circumstances to include or exclude things. If I had walked to the left about 6 inches and scooted down a little bit, a couple of inches, her head would have been here, and it would have blocked that all out. Now, I actually blocked like a yellow pipe, which was triggering me, and didn't even notice the buoy or the life preserver at the time. But if I had spent more time doing it, I could have easily just moved her, or in post-processing, I could just take this out. Whenever I do the class around here, I get everybody to take a picture of the boat just behind the fish. And the first thing everybody sees is the boat. And then when they get home, the second thing they see is there's a small luminous orange buoy where the anchor is. And it's always there. It's how he anchors the boat, but nobody ever notices it when they're taking the picture. And when they get home, it's the first thing they see. Because when you're out and about doing things, your brain has different effects on what you see, as opposed to when you're pixel peeping and looking at your computer back home. So I think, Ian, you were on one of those classes. Did you, when we did the buoy, did you kind of not see it and then seen it whenever I pointed it out?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's true.
Now, some will cry that this is like really, really bad and stuff, but basically I just photoshopped the buoy out because I don't want it in, and there's no way of getting it out because I can't go into the water. I haven't had the 12 shots required to go into the lagoon. So if anyone's rowed on the lagoon, you'll know you need to get a lot of shots before you're even allowed near the water. But in short, I just cheat and remove it. But I could leave it in if I wanted to. And it's something that you have to think about, visual weight. So you have to try and it's not something I could teach you in one class. Sky already has a really good idea about this because they teach this in traditional arts about the effect of different colors. Colors have moods and feelings and things associated with them. They are usually culturally sort of agnostic, but for some cultures, for example, in Japan, all of the stoplights are blue because there's a high number of colorblind people in Japan. So it'd be stupid to have green and red lights because a very large proportion of the population have red and green color blindness. So they know and are aware of that, and that's why their green lights are green and their red lights are blue. No, it's the other way around. Sorry, red lights are red and their green lights are blue. If you go looking, you can see on Google, etc. If you go have a snoop around on Google Maps, you'll be able to see their street lights are different color. And we should all be doing that, to be honest with you. We have a lower prevalence of colorblind people here, but it's still something that affects people, and there's no reason why we couldn't change the lights. But it's something to be aware of, that there is like a visual weight attracted by colors. So if you want, I can show you another color, another picture and talk you through it, or if you guys have any pictures I could show, we could talk, or you're willing to show, I can talk you through those, or you could talk me through those, what you intended or what was wrong with them and how I would do it different. For this one, Andrew, what would you do?
I suppose I would have it panned around to the right a bit more so that there's more in front of the fish and that the van is out of it. And like you say, the boy, I would have that kind of blanked out. But I don't know what's to the right of it. Is it now, what is to the right of that? Is it now the where is it, or what side is that from?
That's actually a really good point. It's very, 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 very difficult to critique other people's pictures without context. So for all you know, there were 3 drunk guys sitting there.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God, no, I don't want to include those in my picture. And that's just something that yeah, I can't remember. I do remember there was something bad, but I think there was a cyclist or something, and I didn't want to include him in the picture, and I deliberately cut it off short there. The other thing was I sneaky took this picture of Clemens. I showed it to her afterwards and said, was she happy that I used it? And she said it was lovely, and could she have a copy? But I sneaky took it, so I only had about 10 seconds, and I rattled off 3 different exposures in like 10-20 seconds. Otherwise, I would have posed her and moved things around and stuff. But that would have kind of spoiled it for me, because she would have probably been acting instead of just naturally trying to take a picture. So there was a whole load of context to this that you weren't aware of, how much time I had, what was around in the background. That was actually a council van on the left. They had decided to turn up and basically trash the place with bollards and all sorts of hilarious stuff. So all of the left, you can see if you look very closely, just under the tail of the fish, there's some yellow, it's like security fencing that you click together. They had basically littered the whole left-hand side where Sammy the seal and all the other ornaments and things are. So it was something that, yeah, I wanted to exclude, and I didn't exclude enough. So let me see. I will show you the other one. I am attempting to do that now. If I can find it. Yeah, so here's this was the same time, but from a different angle. Oh no, wait a minute, that's not it. Well, this is the Tourist Ireland one. Here, I'll show you this. So this is the Tourist Ireland equivalent. Oh, hold on.
I like that. I like
How did that
that.
happen? That was well, I could talk you through this one too, but we found a pair of shoes. Someone had been out on the Raz, as I would call it, and we found a pair of shoes. There we go. Right. So this is the Tourism Ireland one. This is a similar class, and I just included all the students instead of picking on one student. This was a day when it was quite clear. And I said, hey, basically, I'm going to take a picture to advertise my class. So I wanted to have people in it and them talking. These are 2 students at the front here. And they were talking about their pictures and things like that, and other folks taking pictures of the big fish. I do a walk, and we always start at the big fish, and I try to challenge people to take new and different and interesting pictures of the fish. So I make them walk around the fish for 10-15 minutes. Ian did this, I think, and just think really hard about what they're taking pictures of, because it's a really good exercise. If you look the big fish up on the internet, you will find 10 million pictures like the one I took, minus Clements. And people just stand at the bottom of the ramp and take a picture straight on. I think I did take a really boring, rubbish one for education purposes. Hold on. God knows where it's gone. No, can't find it. Never mind. Right, so I'm back. I've stopped sharing for a moment. Hopefully I'm back. Am I back?
Yeah.
Back. Right. So apologies, that was a really long one. It's a subject that's kind of infinitely deep. Sky, if you've done a lot of like study on this, could you give us just how much time, energy, or effort have you spent studying composition / visual weight in terms of hours or weeks or months?
I don't know. I always still go back to it, you know. It's something that's quite important, and I would always talk about it in my life drawing class as well, of getting where the model's weight is sitting in the person. You know, if you can draw the weight of the person sitting, it bases them. It's so like, yeah. And if people just concentrate on the outline, it's just a floating kind of image.
Yeah, even visual weight in terms of if you're drawing a picture of a person, people are naturally attracted to faces.
Yep.
So if you include a face in a photo, like that picture of Clements, you can't see her face. Some people get really annoyed by that because you can't see her face, because a lot of what defines us as people is our face, and people naturally look that out whenever they're trying to do photos. Some people do, and you can include it for a specific reason and you can exclude it for a specific reason. But it's something that you never not study composition or visual weight or things like that. I will say almost everything you learn, Andrew said, like, they taught him to do one thing, but he wanted to do something else. Almost everything you learn in photography circles, they teach you about the rule of thirds. They teach you about the Fibonacci sequence, or the golden spiral, as it's also called. They teach you about black and white chiaroscuro, which is like a thing from painting, which they have adopted. You probably find this hilarious. They're stealing a lot of terms out of traditional painting, Sky, in the photography community. But basically, those things are all things that people can teach you, and if you like them, great, and if you don't, also great. There aren't really any specific rules, but if you're aware of certain things, you can either do them on purpose, so you can follow the rules, or you can break the rules, and it's totally up to you. The problem is, and the hardest thing is, and the thing that's impossible to teach, and it's something, sorry, picking on you again, Ian, it's something that you find really difficult. Just trust your gut. Ian's really talented and takes lots of awesome pictures, and he's going like this here. What? I see loads of your pictures and go, wow, that's class. I think you've got a really I think you've got a really strong eye. You might not know what you're doing, but he does a lot of really what I would call like striking and interesting compositions. The bird picture you're using as your portfolio, you've got a blue tit or a chaffinch or something.
Yeah.
And you've got some, you probably can't show us, but there's a picture on Ian's, it's just his portfolio picture for Facebook, his little face picture. And it's a really, really strong composition of a bird with lots of nice leading lines from the branches and the bird's face. And it's just a really striking composition from my point of view. Really nice. Captures the character of the bird and things as well.
Matthew, sorry, I've called you Matthew. No, that's not right. I'll interrupt you there, because this is a point in case where I submitted that photograph in a wee photography round with Nippa.
Yeah.
And all the little branches and twigs that are in it, they were distractions. Takes away from the subject of the photo, which is the bird. And I just kind of thought, yeah, but it's a nice picture. So
no, I really like it for that. I mean, that's the whole joke. The very short version of the story is Ian's always doubting himself because other people are telling him what to do. Yes, sorry, Alpetha.
Say as well, I've seen some of the photography club like best winning images, and I don't like any of them. So if that's the standard, then I wouldn't be worried if they didn't like it, to be honest, because some stuff that I've seen, I'm like, what is going on?
It's not, I'm not opposed to camera clubs. It's just that I'm like a real right-wing socialist when it comes to art. It's like art for art's sake. If you're creating something and you enjoy it and you love it, great. How on earth can someone else judge you or score you, or, you know, your art's good and yours is bad? It's so weird. There are technical things in photography. If you want to get a correct exposure and you mess up and you're aware of it, fine. If you want to get an overexposed picture and you want to get an underexposed picture, or you want to whatever, and you get what you want, people might not like it. That's fine. The problem I have with camera clubs is and competitions and stuff is, it's the same problem I have with TV. So has anyone ever watched a TV show and the first series was awesome, and then the second series was kind of meh?
Most of them.
Yeah, most. Do you know why? Do you know why it happens? It happens because somebody passionate who cares about what they're doing creates something, and then it gets popular, and then all of a sudden it turns into design by committee, and they want to appeal to as much stuff as possible. If you've watched Game of Thrones started off very, very complex, extremely plot heavy, with a lot of extremely difficult stuff and multiple stories, and by the end of it, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but super boring and almost no plot of any description at all whatsoever. Got to the point where it was just it went from very, very, very clever political intrigue stuff and sex and violence to sex and violence. They left out all of the political intrigue. At the very end, it got dumbed down because it got more and more and more popular. and it's easier to sell stuff like that to the mass market. And that's vanilla ice cream all over. Nobody really hates it. If I said you can have no ice cream or a vanilla ice cream, apart from Una, you'd probably have an ice cream. You'd say, whatever, I'll have a vanilla ice cream. But if you got to pick your favorite, you would. And that is why camera clubs don't work, is because you get like 5 people that are judging pictures. And like I judged a photography competition just this week, and I was very clear about it and said, look, some of your pictures are better than others. I didn't pick the technically best ones as winners. I picked the ones I liked the best because I'm a human being and I'm subjective. I was really impressed. One of the kids took a really clever composition. Another one of the kids got a picture of a heron. A 12-year-old kid got an awesome picture of a heron, which is a bloody nightmare. I've attempted it multiple times, and as soon as I even vaguely touch my camera, they just fly away immediately. There's a heron in my neighborhood called George. It's been named because it lives on a reservoir where I live. But basically, I could never get a picture of it, but he did, and I was quite impressed by his ability to sneak up on a heron. His photo wasn't the best in his category, but his effort was. So he won that category. The adult that won, I looked at 50 sunset pictures. If anyone looks on my Facebook page, you'll see I posted lots of pictures over the last week of all the different entrants. And we live in an area that gets stunning pink and purple sunsets pretty much every night. And I'm sick to the back teeth of them. So I didn't pick one of them as a winner. I picked a lady who had a very blue sky and beautiful fluffy clouds and a super abstract picture of the reservoir where I live, because it just jumped out at me as being super interesting and novel and unique. She took her picture on her phone. Other people, I had a professional photographer in the neighborhood entered, and technically speaking took a much better picture, but was less interesting to me visually because it's something that I've seen a lot of. And I'm very clear about it. I'm 100% subjective. If you get 5 people together and you get them to agree on something, it's never going to be, you're always going to have what I call like design by committee. You're always going to have generic meh. So, Alpitha said like that she doesn't like the standard. The standard tends to get generic. The pictures can be fantastically technical and amazing, because that's something that if you put 5 photographers in a room, they can all agree technically this is good, this composition is good. Those technical things are things they can all agree on. But when it comes to subjective stuff about the subject or the weighting or the branches in front of your bird, which I really loved, that's subjective, and then all of a sudden that gets thrown out. So camera competitions generally get judged on technical stuff, and then they descend into just technical. And you get points out of 10 for lighting, composition, things like that. And it's not wrong. It's just, it can lead you down a path of trying to make other people happy and then becoming very unhappy with your own photography. Ian, I'm not talking about you. I had the chairperson of an unnamed camera club come to one of my classes and tell me he had retired as chairperson of the camera club. He had fallen out of love with photography. He hadn't touched his camera in 5 years since he had left. He'd been in charge of the camera club for a good 15 years and just was bored to the back teeth of photography and couldn't be bothered picking up his camera anymore. I asked him what he was passionate about in his life, and he had bought a motorbike, somewhat of a midlife crisis. And I said, why don't you take pictures of your motorbike? So for the guts of a year, he drove around every weekend taking pictures of his motorbike in different like comedy car ad type scenarios. He'd drive up a mountain and take a picture of it, or drive like into a forest and take a picture of it, and fell back in love with photography because he was taking pictures of stuff that he loved. And he was a judge, so it's not something that anybody's immune to. It's happened to me before too. You get in a funk. If I end up having to do, I remember when I did a lot of wedding photography, the time that I did it, Cadbury's purple was the thing to have for your bridesmaids. Every bridesmaid had a Cadbury's purple dress, and I must have done 5 weddings in a row. And it got to the point where I couldn't look at another. I love that royal purple. It's a beautiful color, but it got to the point where I was like, oh my God, not another Cadbury's purple wedding. So it's something that you can fall in and out of love with, and it's something that like you can basically, if you don't kind of stick to what you want and what you want to do, it's something you can find very difficult to get what you want. So I would say um, make decisions about things and trust your gut. And it's so hard. The only way to develop this, I know from all of your point of view, don't worry, we're going to do loads of practical stuff next week, I promise. But this week, it's a lot of waffle from me, unfortunately, because I can't do anything practical. But for between now and next week, if you can, if you're looking at pictures, look at pictures that you like and look at pictures that you don't like. Don't ask anyone else. Don't look at Facebook. Don't look at scores from things, but look at your own work with a critical eye and try to work out why you like it. So pick something you really like. Maybe pick the favorite picture you've ever taken in your whole life and pick like something absolutely diabolically terrible that you hate and sit down and critically assess it from your own perspective. So I can't give you this perspective, but I could give you, let me see, hold on. I will pick a picture that I really like. Ooh, let me see. Yeah, because I'm a weirdo. I love all sorts of weird stuff. I have some really abstract pictures. Okay. So just to give you an idea, I want you to. I'm not gonna get you to report back or anything. I just want you to do it as an exercise because it's an extremely important exercise to try to find yourself. It's going to sound really hippie like now, but I want you to try and find your like what you like. It's super easy to find what type of ice cream you like. When you were a kid, you tried every type of ice cream, and all of a sudden you discovered, wow, I love pistachio, and that's my favorite. And then maybe there's a specific type of pistachio ice cream you like better than others because you tried different things. And you think about it when you do it, but you tend to not do that with your own photography. So if I'm going to just very quickly for the rest of this class, I'm going to pick a really weird picture that I love that people will look at and go, oh my God, what on earth is this? So now you can bash this and go, oh God, that's terrible. I hate it, Matcha. And it's okay. I've been around the block. I have a thick skin. So whether you like it or not, doesn't matter. I'm just going to tell you what I like about it. Right. First off, does anybody know what it is?
Post office.
Looking up the sky somewhere in the corner of a building.
Yeah, it's Tomb Street Post. It's the big sorting office in Tomb Street. So that's the building. And then what's that other thing there? What's this job over here?
Light. Lamp.
It's a lamppost. Yeah.
Mm.
So I was teaching a class and one of my students was complaining that there was all these, well, I'm not saying what they said, but there were a lot of lampposts around spoiling their landscape photography. And I said, like, you know, sometimes you just got to roll with it. Why don't you take the landscape photography and take the lampposts and like combine the two things together? Why can't you just say, okay, right, I'm going to, instead of photoshopping out a lamppost, I want you to do your best to like include a lamppost as a subject in your photo. And they were like a bit in disbelief and said, look, no way, you do it. You show me how you can do something arty or creative with a lamppost. And I was like, challenge accepted. That's my favorite thing. Because I try to practice what I preach. So if I'm told, right, okay, so I was like, okay. And where we were standing, we were just, if you don't know it, it's near Custom House Square. It's just down in Belfast. It's near the Big Fish, just across the street. And I could have ran around and done something, but I thought, no, I'm actually here. I'm going to try and do something clever and arty with the lamppost and the building. So I pretty much lay on my back with my head down on the ground and shot directly up. And I wanted to get a really off-kilter composition with the lamppost being a prominent feature, not something that I'm going to say, right, I'm going to Photoshop this out later. And I knew that at the time it was a really blue sky, and I was thinking to myself, it's a grimy building. It has some really interesting lines. I think this would be a really good black and white picture. So I deliberately tried to incorporate things in the picture that I thought would look good in black and white. So I included the lamppost. I put it on a, I didn't put it on the rule of thirds, but I wanted the lean line of the building to come down to the lamppost. I wanted not the sky, but I wanted the building and the lamppost to be the subject of the picture. When you look at it, you might feel differently. You might look at it and go, what the hell is this? This is what some folks would class as like abstract photography. But from my point of view, I was really happy with it because it did something really interesting and creative with a lamppost. So I quite like this picture. Let's have a show of hands. I want honest, like, this is the whole ice cream thing. Who likes my picture? Give me a thumbs up. Who doesn't? Give me a thumbs down. These are all, there we go. Good. Thank you, Darian. These are all big licks apart from Darian.
Well, I like the sky, but I don't like the other bits.
I didn't see Una or Morris. Did you give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down? Oh, good, Morris. There's another one. Okay, right. I'm not picking on you, Morris. Why don't you like it?
Well, I think, well, as a planner.
Oh, I'm going to get in trouble now. I broke some sort of zoning law or something.
No, you haven't. It's just I'm a traditionalist when it comes to streetscapes. And,
okay.
This isn't a traditionalist. It's just a gut thing. As you were saying yourself, follow your gut. And my favorite type of streetscape is narrow streets, but from a human perspective. And so it didn't grab me.
And that's okay.
I'm sure technically I've missed a million things. But
No. This is the whole point of this, right? This is what I'm trying to illustrate. It's all like when people say art is in the eye of the beholder, people have been saying that for 5,000 years. You know, that's not some new thing. If you don't like it, people say, you know, I don't know a lot about art, but I know what I like. That's about the best thing I could teach you. If you don't like it, that's okay. I love abstract stuff. So I wasn't setting out to make a street photo. I was setting out to make something abstract. But it's okay if you don't like it, or it's okay if you do like it, but I'm picking on the people who don't like it. So Darian, why don't you like it? You might have different reasons to Morris.
Yeah, it doesn't, I like the sky, but the combination, I find at odds with each other, and it doesn't produce any positive emotion in me, or any emotion at all, really. Okay. So I like a photograph that creates an emotion within me, and that doesn't do it for me.
Okay, that's okay too. Like this is it's really weird and it's really odd in the photographic community. And if you go on YouTube or you go on anything really, there's so much pointing fingers and this is right and this is wrong. If you want to grow and develop as a photographer, you've got to develop a thick skin, which takes a wee bit of time. But the easiest way by far to develop a thick skin is what the exercise I'm asking you to do between now and next week is to look at your own work and try to work out what you like and what you don't like. And then just trust your gut. And if other people say that's rubbish, go, okay, you know, I like vanilla ice cream, you like pistachio, whatever. Has anyone ever seen any kind of war or turmoil over ice cream? No. We seem to have a lot of war and turmoil over religion, even though they're not like mutually exclusive. You know, people can do whatever they like. And we've had since the dark ages, we've had wars and all sorts over religion or various other hilarious things, politics. But in terms of ice cream, never had any wars over ice cream. I think it's because universally everybody likes ice cream, apart from Una. Una, luckily there's not like a large proportion, or there could be a war. But I'm being facetious, but my point is the same, is that everything from this point of view is subjective. You don't have to like everything. If you don't like it, pick this picture. Morris and Darian, if you look at this picture and between next week and today, have a think about what, analytically think. And you've maybe had some experience with this. Darian said very clearly, it doesn't provoke any kind of emotional response in her, and that's something that's very important for her and her photography. And that's a good thing, because you know now, like maybe you've always known that, but you know from maybe your art or just any art, you wanted to provoke some sort of emotional response. And that's okay. And it's basically, it's something that I can't tell you. It's something you have to develop in yourself. And I know, and I'm picking on Andrew a wee bit, and I'm picking on Ian a wee bit, and probably Mars too. It's harder if you've got a technical background or you've had a strict career where you do X, Y, and you get better at it and you become a master of your field and things like that. I was like the Northern Ireland prominent expert on youth stats, crime stats. If you needed crime stats related to kids, it was me. I published books and all sorts of hilarity. And going from like, he's the boss, go ask him, to do whatever you like, whatever makes you happy. Ian touched on a little bit between the private and the public sector. I've done that too. I did the other way around. I worked in the public sector and then moved to the private sector. And it's tough, and it's something, and it's similar in art. It's basically that you've got to go from a mindset of fitting criteria and ticking boxes to making yourself happy. And you might not know at any point in time what it actually you want out of photography, and it can change too. So don't feel bad that you bashed my picture. I'm putting in my wee black. Where's my black book? I'm gonna bash Morris. You're both getting like, at random. I'm just gonna lash out. I'll be like, "Oh, Morris, I thought you were a really nice fella, but your picture's trash." No, but it doesn't matter. It that's the thing. It's okay. It's completely subjective. Don't worry about it. But do try to spend time and try to do it on your own. This is something that's very introspective for just you. So don't ask a spouse or don't show your mum, look at this lovely picture. Look at it yourself. Why do you like it? You might discover that pictures that you've taken that other people love, you don't really like them. And that can hurt you as a photographer. You need to think about what you like and what attracts you to photography. And then if you, by next week, you can't do this in a week. This is something you spend years doing. But if you start doing it now, you'll be in better position by the end of the 8-week class. If you start thinking about your own photography objectively and subjectively, and trying to think about what you like and dislike and other people's photography too. So that's kind of your hope. It's a really weird homework. That's your homework for next week. We've come to the end of the first intermediate class. The beginners class, I hang around for 10-15 minutes at the start if people are stuck. For this class, I hang around for 10-15 minutes at the end if people are stuck. So it's open floor for you guys. Remember to get a tripod or a bag of rice or a sock full of rice or something for next week. We're going to do slow shutter photography. And if you want to, something you can move, or theoretically we could do a wee bit of, if people, has everyone got the ability to like darken their room quite dramatically? Yes. You would have to the point where it's like nighttime but not quite.
Yeah.
No.
Pretty
No.
much.
Okay. We will stick to slow shutter stuff in terms of bring, if you have a bouncy ball or something that you can drop, a tennis ball, some of the beginners use for another class, but something that you can drop or move, or if you have a pet or a child or something that can reliably misbehave, if you have them prepared for next week, we can basically practice like the slow shutter photography, the speeds of different things, what Sky was talking about as part of it, how to pick what moves quickly and what moves slowly in your pictures. We'll do that next week. But now it's over to you guys. Anybody, any questions?
Out of curiosity, how did you share? What do you do to share something on here image-wise? Because
I have no clue. I have no clue, Ian. I'll try and remember. I'll try and remember for next week.
I'm just wondering will we end up having to do that?
Yeah, well, I want to. I mean, if you're looking for feedback, by the way, because Zoom is a nightmare for most people. If you want feedback on pictures in between, I should have said this. Apologies. I always give everybody my card at the start of a class and say, if you need me at all in the next couple of weeks, just give me a shout. If you get in touch on Facebook, Instagram, any whatever, it's in my email. If you want feedback on pictures, if you need help with camera stuff, just give me a shout. Most things I'll either know the answer or I'll know someone who knows better than me and send you their way. If you want feedback on pictures or there's something you want to include in a class, just fire to me one of the other social media ways. In here, you can go to share screen and advanced sharing options. And basically, no, it's not going to work now. Here we go. No, apparently not. There it is. Right. So in share screen, it's in advanced and it's portion of screen. I did the basic one, which is supposed to just show my screen, but it didn't work properly. So the portion of screen, you click on it, and then you can draw a box. So I was able to, let's see. So I was able to draw a box on the screen when I press the button. Of course, now it's not going to work. There it goes. Right, share. So I click share, and I'm able to actually drag this box. If I only want to show you like this bit of the picture, I can drag the box around to show you. You're supposed to be able to just do basic screen share, but it never works properly. This does seem to work though. This is another abstract. I'm big into abstract photography. I love doing weird stuff. I also do boring, normal stuff, as I call it, and I love it too. But basically, you can like draw a box. So on my screen, it's like a green box, and you draw around the thing you want them to see. So if I wanted you only to look at her, I can like draw a box around it, and it just, hopefully you can just see her. I don't know if it zooms it up or not.
Yeah.
So yeah, is this for class then, Ian? Yeah, Ian's pretending this is photography, but this is really for his other job.
No, it's asking me to open system preferences and all that for
Oh,
security.
have a play around with it. There is free classes on Zoom for educators. I took one of them yesterday morning, and they're pitched at teachers and educators, and they teach you. It showed me how to do this, and then I promptly forgot, and then bluffed my way through the class. So, any other questions?
No.
Nope.
Oh, you're on mute. Hello.
Can we go over the bit where you remove things from the photo in Photoshop? Because that would be really useful, especially whenever there's like stuff that is annoying in a picture.
Oh yeah, okay. So post-processing is, I mean, it can be addition to your photography. It can be a tweak to your photography, or it can be 90% of your photography. I'll put it in generic terms here. That's going to be an interesting one to teach. I should be able to screen share. I can like edit live basically. I use Affinity Photo. I used Photoshop before in the past. I've used Lightroom and different things. Most photo editing, I can give you examples of free photo editing stuff as well that I would recommend. You can actually get really sophisticated photo editing stuff for your iPad and your phone and things now too. But if that's something people are interested in, that a bit of that would fit into the post-production for what Darian had asked about, like producing your own books and things. You get into a lot of cropping and taking out things that shouldn't be there. The most common ones for me were always like fire extinguishers, lampposts, exit signs, just stuff like that it's better just to Photoshop it out quickly. So yes, we can cover that okay. Anybody else? Anything else?
One thing, I'm
Yes.
just thinking, when I originally contacted you, it was about black and white photography. Now I know that's a whole different course or class. Will it be run at some point, or will you cover any of that?
I can cover it. It's up to you guys. It's
Well,
basic.
there's a million other things.
I know. The problem is, that's the thing. I mean, no joking aside, I've been teaching this for years now, and I've never taught the same group of classes to the intermediate or the improvers group. I've taught easily 25 different classes. And sometimes it's as niche as black and white. We can teach. We did the last black and white class. It was actually outside. Around the Crescent is great because there's a lot of Victorian architecture and stuff. Unfortunately, it's the kind of thing that I'd like to teach in person because it's much easier to pick it up when you're out and about. I run classes. Ian came to one of them where we go and spend 5 hours running around town, taking pictures of all sorts of things and talking about just textures and light and dark and stuff. But if it's something you're keen to do, we could do something here. I'm a big fan of black and white photography, especially abstract stuff, and I know a lot of really good people too.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
Oh, here, show us your picture. This is the one. This is Ian's picture. This is the one I was talking about.
I was mucking about, and suddenly, what do I do here?
Draw a box around it, and it will. If you draw it, you should have like a green or that's it. No, like a green or an orange box.
What? There's a green box.
No,
but it's not-
around the outside of the screen, you've actually got it makes its own box.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I can't.
Yeah, I love it because for me it captures like the character of the bird and just its surroundings and how you see them in their natural habitat.
No
But-
idea what you guys are saying.
But he got panned in a camera
Bird.
because there's too many
Yeah, we branches and things.
branches and things. You know.
Right. That's weird.
So
I like branches.
me too. For me it adds to the image. I liked it because you've got a really strong blue and yellow subject against a mostly greeny mottled background as well. It's really nice color and stuff in it too. So there's a little bit, 10 people could look at a picture and take different things from it. And it's the problem with it is, like, if I'm running a photography competition and you submit that, you're going to win, Ian. But if somebody else, they're not. So it's silly. They teach you the best way to win in photography competitions is to go and snoop on the judges on Facebook and find out what stuff they like. I'm not joking. Go look up, if you look up Zach Arias, he's a judge, a photography judge, and he says himself, there's certain things he really likes, and if you submit a picture like that, you're going to do better. And it doesn't matter if the picture is he's big into black and white, so if you submit a really contrasty black and white picture, you're going to do well in that competition because he loves that kind of stuff. You can't divorce the human element of it from the technical, no matter how good you are. He's a professional judge. He's judged like Photography Association of America and all sorts of stuff like that, but at the end of the day, he's still a human, so it's something to be aware of. Anyway, yes, we can cover that, but it's one of those things, it's probably better taught in person, but we'll see
Fair
how
enough.
we go. Any other questions before we go?
Thanks very much. We'll see you next week.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
Bye. Good to
Bye.
meet you all.
Thank you. Bye.
See ya.
Bye now.
Bye.
Don't feel that you have to hang around after class. If you've got to go, just disappear. I won't be offended. We'll pretend your internet got cut off and talk about you behind your back. Anybody else
No. That
before we
was
go?
good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye.
See you all. Bye.
See you later.
Bye bye.
Sky, do you need a hand doing this